My mother was in charge of 3 rendezvous at Kuno, which, as I remember, were always filled with the children of my relatives. In fact, I can hardly remember any occasion as a child when I was alone. In African culture, the sons and daughters of one's aunt or uncles are considered brothers and sisters, not cousins. My mother's sister is my mother, and my brother's child is my son or my daughter. Of my mother's 3 huts, one was used for cooking, one for sleeping, and one for storage. In the hut in which we slept, there was no furniture in the Western sense. We slept on mats and sat on the ground. I did not discover pillows until I went away to school. The stove on which my mother cooks was a 3-legged iron pot that rested on a grate over a hole in the ground. Everything we ate, we grew and made ourselves. My mother planted and harvested her own mealies. A portion of this was made into bread, which the rest was dried and stored in pots. Unlike mealies, which were sometimes not available, milk from our cows and goats was always plentiful. Now, children, let us hear more about the paragraph that we have read. Mandela's mom was actually in charge of 3 rendezvous, and it was always filled with many children of their relations. And then it is said that in African culture, there is no cousin relationship like we people. Okay, we have cousin brothers, but here they consider cousin brothers are their own brothers and sisters. So there was no difference. Even aunt is treated as your own mother. Okay, suppose your aunt, you call as aunt, is it? But the relationship was just like their own mother. And from here we understand that how strong the relationships were in African culture, isn't it? They don't have a concept of cousins. Rather than they have a concept of being own brothers and sisters. Now, Mandela's mother had 3 huts. Okay, and one was used for cooking and one for sleeping and other was used for storing food items. And when you just read the paragraph, it is clear that there was no furniture like chairs or tables. There was no furniture, and they slept on mats and sat on ground. You might have noticed in typical villages in Kerala, said have you seen mats made of palm leaves? So similarly, there also in Africa, also in those times, there was no furniture. They slept on mats and sat on ground. Then Mandela has not even seen any pillows till he went to school. Mandela has not seen, what do you mean by a pillow? That also he didn't see that till he go to school. Then let's see what about cooking. What about cooking? There was a 3-legged pot and a grate. Grate means a frame, just like a grid, which could be placed on top of fire, and on the top of that these pots will be kept. And the fire was put through a hole, and over that hole this grate will be kept, and above that grate these pots will be kept for cooking. And they cultivated all necessary items by themselves, and they don't go to any shops often like we people. We go to shop and buy a lot of items. Now for Africans in those times, they cultivated all items by themselves. Then Mandela's mother cultivated maize for her needs. She used to cultivate maize. She used to cultivate maize by herself, and a portion was used for making bread. It was used for making bread, and the rest of the maize were dried and kept maybe for coming days. Okay, Then maize cannot be grown in winter seasons, so they might have kept some maize for future use. And when these maize is not available, what they do, they take or they survived with milk from domestic animals like goats and cows. From an early age, I spent most of my free time in the veld, playing and fighting with the other boys of the village. At night, I shared my food and blanket with these same boys. I was no more than 5 when I became a shepherd boy looking after sheep and calves in the fields. I discovered the attachment that the Xhosa have for cattle, not only as a source of food and wealth, but as a blessing from God and a source of happiness. Now children, let's see the next paragraph. When Mandela was a small boy, how did he spend his days? He spent most of his time by fighting and playing with other children. Then at night, he shared food and blanket with the boys. He shared food and blanket with other children. So you can see how caring and sharing the people of Africa were. Then he became a shepherd boy. You know what is a shepherd boy? Shepherd boy means a boy who looks after shepherds and take them to pastures for feeding. He became a shepherd boy when he was not even 5 years. So when he was a very small boy, he became a shepherd boy who used to take all these cattle for rearing. Then it is said that Xhosa is a tribe of South Africa where Mandela belongs. Children, the pronunciation is too tough and even impossible for us to speak it. Only native speakers of Africa can speak the word Xhosa. That the click sound will come in the beginning. That is not possible for we people. Xhosa tribes treated cattle not only as a source of food. They take milk of cattle during the time where maize is not available, that we already studied. They treated cattle as a blessing from God. It is considered as a blessing from God and a source of happiness also. So they respect animals. So here it is very clear that they had a dutiful mind and kind heart even towards animals. That is why they treat cattle as a blessing from God and a source of happiness. It was in the fields that I learned how to use a slingshot, to gather wild honey, fruits and edible roots, to drink warm sweet milk straight from the udder of a cow, to swim in the clear, cold, fast-moving streams, and to catch fish with strings and sharpened bits of wire. I learned to stick fight, a very important bit of knowledge for any rural African boy, and became skilled in its various techniques. From these days, I date my love of the veld, of open spaces, the simple beauties of nature, and the clean line of the horizon. As boys, we were mostly left to our own plans. We played with toys we made ourselves. We molded animals and birds out of clay. We made ox-drawn carts out of tree branches. Nature was our playground. The hills above Kunu were dotted with large, smooth, light grey rocks, which we converted into our own roller coasters. We sat on flat stones and slid down the face of the large rocks. So children, Mandela learned a lot of things during his childhood days. From using slingshots. Slingshot means a Y-shaped toy which is used to attach rocks to the ends for shooting. Then to gather honey, wild honey, then fruits and edible roots. Edible means eatable, which you can eat. Then to drink warm milk from udder of a cow. Udder means a bag-shaped part of a cow in which milk is formed and stored. Then he also learned to swim, to catch fish with bits of wires. And he also learned to stick fight. Stick fight means it's like a martial arts, defending with sticks. So from his very childhood days onwards, you can see he loved his hometown filled with simple beauty of nature. And he spent most of his time in open spaces of his hometown veld. Then in the next paragraph it is said that they made their own toys for playing. In olden days people don't buy toys. Have you seen? Children of those times will not go to any shops or buy any toys just like you people. In those times children used to shape toys out of clay, wood, and even using palm leaves. They used to create beautiful and simple things. So here Mandela used to make toys with clay, and they made bullock carts with tree branches, and they also spent their time more with nature. Then the hills had large smooth rocks which they played roller coaster. Roller coaster, it's going up and sliding down. Then they slid on the flat stones, just like how children play on the slides. They slid on the flat smooth stones and enjoyed their childhood days being with nature. Usually the boys played among themselves, but we sometimes allowed our sisters to join us. Boys and girls would play games like Diza, hide and seek, Ikekua, touch and run, and Keta, choose the one you like. After games such as these, I usually return home to my mother's kraal where she would be preparing dinner, while my father told us stories of historic battles and heroic Xhosa warriors. My mother would enchant us with Xhosa legends and fables that had come down from earlier generation. These tales usually contained some moral lessons which helped my imagination grow. Extract from Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. Now students, in the last paragraph it is said that Mandela allowed his sisters also to join with them for playing. It was not a boys game alone, they included girls also. And they played games like Diza, you pronounce it as Diza, Ikekua and Keta. So they engaged themselves in a lot of games. Then after playing, Mandela returned home to his mother's kraal. Kraal means it's a rural African village. And she would be preparing dinner. And Mandela's father was also a very good man who uphold values. How you can say that? Why it is said like that? Because he used to tell stories of great men and Xhosa tribes. He used to tell stories of great men belonging to Xhosa tribes, and his mother also told a lot of legends and fables of Xhosa tribes. So these tales actually had left a good moral value, and these inspirational stories from his mother as well as father shaped the imagination of Mandela, which helped him to grow as a great leader of all time. So because of this hometown made him a very good man of value, and also his parents, value imparted by his parents molded him to a good citizen. So children, Nelson Mandela was a great leader who put an end to apartheid. Apartheid means people of South Africa were divided according to their race and lived separately, just like white people and non-white people. And he is widely regarded as an icon of democracy and social justice. And he is held in deep respect even in South Africa now also, described as father of the nation of African citizens. Hope you understood the lesson. Write the notes, study the question answers. Stay safe. Goodbye.